Good morning. My name is Aaron Purdue. So, in light of the discussions that we've had on the BINO Nation on YouTube with Angry Man and the recent discussions concerning Jonathan Majors, abortion, deletion of children, and what's going on in certain communities within the United States, I felt it appropriate to go ahead and tell the truth. So, this is a special report or special documentary or special discussion specifically for the members of the BINO Nation, that audience, and hopefully the Angry Man, if he so desires to use this, will take proper care and context of this. This is why I am releasing it only to the BINO Nation and authorizing Angry Man permission to use this if he so desires. A lot of times when you go into a discussion or something like that, you ease in. But with everything that's going on and with my observations, especially me as a person of a different skin color than the majority of the audience, this may sound difficult. Some people may question, well, why are you doing this? And my firm belief is it's appropriate to tell the truth, no matter what. I think sometimes when something is being observed and a problem is being seen, and you notice a pattern, that it's more important to tell the truth than to be concerned with whether or not it makes people feel a certain way. I'm going to apologize ahead of time because sometimes I'm going to use language that might be a little bit rough. But please be aware that the language that I'm using is not as a means of denigration, but as a means of context, and will most likely be used in context of what certain people think or feel or say about another group of people. That being said, I'm going to begin this by reading a quote by Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger was a Fabian socialist. She came up during what we now call in American history the Progressive Era. So I would encourage all of you to check out Glenn Beck and his Fox News Time. You could probably still find this on YouTube if you just search for Glenn Beck and the Progressives, the Fabian Socialists. And he'll go in and he'll talk about people like Margaret Sanger, George Bernard Shaw, Woodrow Wilson, and the like. I apologize, by the way, I'm recovering from COVID. So if my voice or my appearance is not at 100%, that's why. But I felt it was appropriate to have this discussion today. So without further ado, I'm going to read a quote from Margaret Sanger dated 1939. It seems to me, from my experience, where I have been in North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas, that while colored Negroes have great respect for white doctors, they can get closer to their own members and more or less lay their cards on the table, which means their ignorance, superstition, and doubts. The minister's work is also important, and also he should be trained, perhaps by the Federation, as to our ideals and the goal that we hope to reach. We do not want the word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is the man who can straighten out the idea if it ever occurs to their rebellious members. Margaret Sanger was the founder of Planned Parenthood. Okay? Now, Planned Parenthood is the #1 provider of baby deletions in the United States. It's also funded by the taxpayers. That was Margaret Sanger's goal. She actually wrote this to one of her colleagues in 1939 in regards to what her overall means and desires were. So, abortion is not what, or baby deletion, is not what it's being sold as far as reproductive freedom, women's rights, so on and so forth. It is specifically created or used, or I should say it was specifically pushed in this country as a means of demographically snuffing out poor white people, Hispanic people, Native American people, Jewish people, and in her quote there, most specifically black people. People she considered to be undesirable weeds. So I've chosen, and I'm sitting in my truck right now, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, to start this video at a specific location. Now, if I were to park on their lot and do this, somebody would come out, we would be interrupted, and chances are I would probably sprout some steel bracelets. So, I'm across the street. Let me show you where I'm at. Now, this is important to this discussion. I'm going to start driving, okay? So, the reason why I'm going to start driving is because I'm going to show you, and hopefully you'll realize by the shortness of time it takes me to get to my next little area, why this abortion clinic, or why this clinic, I'm going to have to relearn my diction because just in case he decides to put this public, why this is located where it's located in the city, okay? Let me back up safely here without hitting things, because this is kind of a tight parking lot in an older area of town. I can back up the rest of the way. I should be all right. It's also, now this clinic is just outside of a lower middle class neighborhood. You actually drive into the neighborhood immediately behind it. It's not too bad, but it's right across Central Avenue from an area of town we call the War Zone. Now, the city has officially renamed it the International Zone. But coming up here all through my childhood, and even now that I've returned back into my hometown, all the locals still refer to it as the War Zone. So we're going through one light. There's another traffic light up here, that's Central Avenue. And I'm going to have you take a guess of what demographics predominantly populate what we call the War Zone. See, it is my humble opinion that facility is very strategically placed. Because they want to be as close to their target demographic as they possibly can be. Remember what I just read. Okay. So some people might say, well, that's just conspiracy theory. That's a misnomer. No. Today, we're gonna break that up. We're gonna bust that up. Okay? I don't want it to be a doubt in anybody's mind exactly what those on the left, Democrats, who purport to be your friends and purport to want to help you out, have in mind for you. Okay? And what they're doing to certain cultures to weaken them and to do to them worse than slavery or Jim Crow could have ever done. Here's the neighborhood that we're driving through now. It's a pretty rough neighborhood. Literally 3 traffic lights down from that clinic. Sorry about the poor visuals. I'm doing this from a camera. This is my first time doing any type of long form type thing. So this is all off of my phone, but I hope you're getting the idea. So I'm going to stop here for a few minutes and we're going to talk about some numbers. Roe versus Wade became legal in 1973, so 50 years ago. Okay. Now I'm going to do this all off the top of my head. I actually wrote this down in what some might deem a rather offensive post on Locals about a week ago, where I begged and pleaded and screamed and cussed that some people need to really wake up and take notice of what's happening to them. That was not written out of hate. That was written out of, oh my God, look, please, please, please wake up, help yourselves, okay? So, given what I just read you just a few minutes ago, okay, since 1973, just a little over 29 million African American children were born at full term, okay? That's across 3 generations. So the tail end of Generation X, Millennials, Generation Z, actually, let's go 3.5. And now the beginnings of what they call Generation Alpha, okay? Those 29 million African American children were actually born live births. In that same time period, the culture, the society on the left, the feminists, Margaret Sanger type people, have convinced women, in this discussion, African American women, to delete, before they were born, 26.7 million African American babies. So, over 3 generations, Margaret Sanger has gotten almost half of her wish. If you talk to a professional demographer, they would tell you most likely that if this trend were to continue over the next 2, maybe 3 generations, that this would effectively exterminate the African American population of the United States through the deletions, of course, and through attrition. Now, let me tell you something about Margaret Sanger. She was a Democrat, and she's one of their heroes. So, the Democrats lost you in the Civil War. They couldn't keep you enslaved. So they tried to tie you down through sharecropping and Jim Crow. And then, of course, you rightfully won your civil rights. But very soon after the civil rights movement, this occurred, or the wrapping up of the civil rights movement, I should say, in the mid-60s, early 70s, when that finally seemed like it was there. And congratulations, it's absolutely appropriate. Y'all are human beings. You deserve the same things I do. Okay? We get Roe v. Wade. And then there's something else that I will talk about later on. And that other something else actually has something to do with the Jonathan Major situation as well. That happened. And that one happened almost immediately after the passage of the Civil Rights Law, the Voting Rights Act in 1964. So I'm going to pause the video right here because I do need to stop and get some fuel. And I got to go out and collect some sand or some soil to put in the farolitos or the luminarias that are traditional out here. And I could pretty much go anywhere just immediately outside of the city or outside the metro area to do that where I got a good clean patch of dirt. But I've elected to go to an ancient Native American city. And I'm going to show you the area. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of their history. And what happened to them. Because it's a foreshadowing of what certain people in power, certain people that you say that you trust, that you actually vote for, intend for you. Okay? For the African American population. So, I will check back with you here in a few moments, and we'll go from there.